A few years ago, I uploaded a video where I tried to utilize Traveler to their fullest, and cleared floor 12 in the Spiral Abyss with all available MC elements and unique teams catered to their abilities. At the time, there were only 4 elements available. Fast forwarding to the present time, we now have 6 elements to choose from. In addition to that, Traveler received multiple buffs, and most recently, new drip. Because of that, and many of you urging me to make another Traveler video, I wanted to modernize that old video. In that old video, the challenge was to clear the Abyss with Traveler teams that didn't have repeating units, which I plan to do the same for this video, at least part of it anyway. To explain what I mean by repeating units, if I used Bennett to clear with Anemo MC, I could no longer use Bennett for any of the other Traveler teams. Back then, this wasn't nearly as bad, since you only needed 12 unique units because only 4 elements were available. But now, I needed 18 units to synergize with all the Traveler types available. In a sense, this applies one of the most annoying restrictions of the Imaginarium Theater onto Abyss. There is also one other thing I wanted to be able to properly showcase, but we'll talk about that later in the video. First, we had to get to the challenge at hand. What teams do I even play? I do want to make Traveler do as much damage as possible in these teams, but I have no delusions of grandeur. I know that most of the Traveler elements aren't well suited to deal damage and have lackluster kits. So while I may want to make Traveler a main DPS as much as I can, I'll be doing more to just utilize their specific strengths as much as possible rather than focus on damage potential. I already talked about the buffs as well as some niche interactions that Traveler has in the separate video I uploaded, so check that out if you're interested in learning more about the Traveler kits. In this video, all I'm going to talk about is element specific information. So let's hop to it. First up is figuring out an Anemo MC team. Not gonna lie, both the current Abyss and the previous one, so current one being 6.3b and the previous one being 6.3a, were both extremely bad matchups for Anemo MC. Using the original comp of Faruzan Farina Bennett that I used more than a year back wasn't really going to fly here well, especially since I couldn't make use of Anemo MC's Tornado well since the enemies in this Abyss move around significantly and don't take positions near the Abyss wall. So having Faruzan to amp Anemo damage didn't really help that well. There's a way to do something with Zhongli's Pillar and Ningguang's Gate where you can get that tornado lodged onto it, but then you'd have to replace Farina, which doesn't really feel like enough damage. I did test multiple teams, but I ultimately ended up using Farina, Durin, Bennett, and Anemo MC. Anemo MC's main contribution here was going to be Red Shred. This is kind of where Anemo MC ends up being without heavy support constellations. 1 team down, 5 more to go. As for GeoMC, I'm pretty partial towards the double Geo double Cryo variant that, well, I've commonly used in the past. This is due to several factors, but the main one is crit rate. My GeoMC build is heavily skewed towards crit damage, so getting crit rate from both Cryo Resonance and Rosaria is pretty nice. The full comp I ended up going with is GeoMC, Shalonen, Chongyun, and Rosaria. Last time, I used Electro MC as a reaction driver, taking inspiration from a similar comp with Razor as a driver. I did try several teams to make Electro MC work, but it wasn't that doable in the current Abyss cycle with all of its Nod-Cry shill. So I decided to use Electro MC as a support in the Flynn's team along with Columbina and Jean. Is it optimal? Not really. My rotation is going to be pretty awful, but this is what I committed to. Why Jean? Because I was planning on using Sucrose in a different comp and wanted to see if Jean C2 matters for getting more procs of Electro MC's burst off when on Flynn's. And the answer is, eh. One thing that did change is the enhanced Electro MC charge attack gives another sigil, so you can have Flynn's pick up 4 of them, which is kinda good. But also makes your rotation longer, so is it really that good? I don't know. As for Dendro MC, I want to use a Hyper Bloom team. I decided on the comp of Kale, Kuki, and Shincho pretty early on. And, you know, I did want to do a 4-star character clear at some point, so Dendro MC is actually one of the best choices for that. Plus, it helps now that Dendro MC has some additional application thanks to the enhanced charge attack. In Hydro MC's case, I took a bit of a different approach. Bloom Cores still can increase Hydro MC's burst damage by a multiplicative amount based on how many are on field and close to the enemy being targeted. However, a lot of the enemy's attacks are Electro, so the Bloom Cores would likely be popped before I could really make use of them to increase Hydro MC's damage. However, The current Abyss has a lot of enemies in some chambers, which also makes Hydro MC's burst deal more damage due to its quadratic scaling nature. So I decided on this team of Inefa, Aino, and Sucrose for a Hydro MC. Last but not least, Pyro MC, I was going to go Overload with Fischl, Chevreuse, and Eon-san. I was planning on doing something semi-fancy to get Eon-san Night Soul uptime, which you'll see in a little bit. But yeah, all of my comps are set at this point. I'm not going to go into builds heavily in this video. If you have any questions about them, leave a comment down below. All builds will be listed in a section of the video. In terms of when I did these clears, I did Electro MC and Hydro MC clears in the current 6.3b Abyss cycle, and did the other 4 in the previous one, which was 6.3a. By far, the most messy was the Anemo MC clear. To be honest, this comp ended up like this largely due to having trouble with my initial team setup. I think I should have still been using light mode during the entire time due to how much pyro is being applied, but I occasionally swapped to dark mode just to see if it would work better, but it's like eh. I still managed to clear with full stars regardless, mostly due to the fact that I was using a meta team on the other side. Just so you're aware, all the runs will be in an unlisted video in the description below if you want to check them out after this. Next was GOMC. In this particular case, I think it's a worthy showing, so I'll just let it play out. And that's the GOMC clear. I think it's pretty good. The Wayabs actively destroyed themselves when they nuked the entire field because the boulders pop and they do damage. It's kind of nice. But it's time to move on. Electro MC was also messy like the Anemo MC clear. Theoretically, Electro MC can be useful as a support to Flynn's by giving him enough energy to utilize his big burst every other rotation along with 2 mini bursts, and the extra talisman from the enhanced charge attack does help with that. But I'm not used to fitting in that charge attack, and the locked animation Electro MC has when using their skill is pretty rough against semi-mobile enemies. And let's be real here, there's nothing too impressive about clearing with a Flynn's comp in this Abyss. Moving on to Dendro MC, I got a solid clear. Main thing was to not apply Dendro when dealing with Electro charge mechanics, as that would eat up my Hydro application. But it was pretty simple overall. Hydro MC though, oh my god. This was something else. I think you got the idea overall from what I presented thus far. Hydro MC gameplay has some optimization around the burst, but once you activate the hold skill, I think the footage speaks for itself. At least there are some funny clips that come out of it though. I should also note that I actively gimped my Anemo build just so that Hydro MC could be the main damage contributor to Lunar Charge. I'll leave you to be the judge of whether or not I succeeded at that.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the f is that?
And finally, we have Pyro MC. In the most recent Traveler video, I showed off a run where I actively Dragon Striked with Pyro MC. You may have noticed something a bit odd though. Right here. You see, I managed to perform Dragon Strike with MC without the aid of movement speed, because I only get movement speed after utilizing my burst, but I hadn't used my burst before doing that Dragon Strike. So the new goal I've been working on is trying to perfect no movement speed Dragon Strike on MC. This is probably one of the most mechanically intensive things I've ever tried doing, so why even do it at all? After all, it's not really that much more damage. As odd as it may sound, it's fun to subvert the limitations of a system someone else created, to do more than the creator originally intended in their creation. That's what Dragon Strike represents to me, a way that I can more freely express myself. Also, Traveler used to be able to fly, right? Well, this is as close as I can get to that for now, which is why I keep striving to get better at it. With that final burst, I was done. I had managed a 36 star with every single Traveler. Here are all the builds I used. Keep in mind that the additional stats Traveler gained aren't reflected here, so Traveler only gains the recently acquired stat bonuses when in the active party, so strat trackers have a hard time grabbing the accurate information on Traveler. It is what it is. But we're not done just yet. In the time between that initial Traveler Abyss video and present day, a new endgame mode had been released, Stygian Onslaught. And up until now, for every past Stygian version, I had used a unique Traveler element to clear. The only one being left, well, Hydro MC. So there was only one thing left to do naturally, get a Hydro MC clear on one of the bosses in the current cycle. Did I wheelchair the heck out of Hydro MC? You betcha. Did I get the clear? Also yes, which has allowed me to get one of the funniest screenshots I've ever seen. At the end of the day, I'm still on my journey to become the best Traveler main possible. Hopefully, I'll get there in the future. But for now, I still have things to work on before I truly feel like I deserve a title. With that, thank you for watching, and see you next time.